The question has been asked, could an arahant possibly read a newspaper? Well, I think what was meant by the question was to ask whether an arahant, a fully enlightened being, fully liberated, would need to know anything more than they have already realized by their enlightenment experience, or whatever we might call it, realized nibbana, freed themselves fully from all mental defilements. Why would they want to bother acquiring any more information? Well, it may seem unnecessary, but an arahant or any person, any Buddhist teacher, any monk, for example, who tries to explain the Dhamma to his listeners, to the lay people, for example, they will need certain qualities, certain kinds of knowledge to do that efficiently, properly. And the Buddha once gave a list of these qualities or knowledges that a person should have when talking about Dhamma, explaining the Dhamma. He said such a person needs to know the subject matter that they are talking about. They need to have a good understanding of the actual subject or phenomenon they are describing, they are talking about. And they need to know the meaning, the implications of that. That's the individual or private side of their knowledge. That's something they would have realized through their experience, attaining liberation, freeing their mind from certain defilements, practicing meditation. Then they would gain an understanding of that. Say, explaining something like the five aggregates or other standard topics of Buddhist teachings. Then there are other aspects, other knowledges that they need to have in order to be able to talk and explain something clearly. And one of these is obviously knowing the right time for speaking, not saying the wrong things at the wrong time, just a clear sense of timing. And then also knowing the qualities of the speaker. That means one's own qualities, knowing how far one has progressed in terms of the spiritual faculties, qualities, such as one's mindfulness, concentration, and so on. Just having a clear understanding where one is at. And then with regard to the audience comes the next knowledge. And the Buddha says, well, one should understand the qualities of the assembly that one is talking to, the group that one is addressing, the parisa, it's called parisanyutta, knowledge regarding the assembly, the group that one is addressing. And that is important because together with the next one, the last quality, knowing the individual, puggala-nyutta, knowing a certain type of person that one is talking to, understanding the kind of aspects that will be useful for them. But also with the whole assembly, say we could call it the target group for one's talk, the talk that one is giving. It's something that's really has to do with the world, with the way society is. The Buddha, when he was talking to different groups in India, as he was wandering from town to town, village to village, he would address a a variety of audiences. Sometimes he would speak to individual ascetics and philosophers, contemplatives, monks, all kinds of people. Other times he would be invited for the meal by some householders, merchants, rich people, ordinary householders. Sometimes he would even meet with the kings and address them appropriately. That means he had to know where these people were at, what kind of lives, what kind of occupation they had, what were their daily activities like. And we can see that on the kinds of similes that he was using. He was very skilled at applying all kinds of similes, very practical ones, which would make immediate sense to his listeners. You know, when he was talking to a carpenter, he might use the simile of somebody doing a carpentry job, or talking to some farmers, so he would use the simile of farming and growing plants and so on. So we would say that the Buddha was a master of language, a master of using appropriate similes, using these kind of knowledges. He definitely had those knowledges, and some of his disciples, similarly, like Sariputta or Ananda, we can see from the kinds of discourses that they gave, the kind of teachings they gave. They really were very skilled in using language in this way. So we could say, with society rapidly developing, especially in this modern age, things are changing so fast. If, say, a monk goes into retreat and meditates and comes back after 10, 20 years, fully enlightened arahant, but he's got no idea, he's got no clue of where people in society are at these days, what kind of lives they lead, what has changed since he left society. Well, coming back to society again, trying to address it at a level where people can be reached, where they can listen and gain some understanding from what one is saying. It would seem natural to say that even an arahant would need to acquire certain knowledge, would need to acquire certain information in order to be able to address his target group in an appropriate way. So an arahant could even read a newspaper or browse the internet or get the knowledge about his assembly of listeners in an appropriate way. I remember reading that Ajahn Chah in northeast Thailand, a very wise teacher, he was very skilled at addressing different groups of people. Even sitting in the same assembly in front of him, he would turn to somebody and like a poor rice farmer coming from the nearby village, and he would talk to them and use some similes to do with buffaloes and pigs and so on. Then he would turn to some wealthy lay people who just came to visit from Bangkok and talk to them on a different level, using a different kind of language, even a different sort of dialect. And he would even go to the capital, Bangkok, and address the people there in the appropriate way. So he was very, very skilled. On the other hand, there might be some other teachers, also forest monks, who have done most of their practice in some faraway jungle monastery and have always stayed in that kind of environment. And occasionally, when they get invited into the bigger towns, they may not have a clue, may not even know how to address the people who have invited them, may be talking at a level that's not easily understood by the listeners, and not very relevant either. And if they don't make some kind of effort to acquire knowledge, acquire information, a better understanding of their audience, of this target group, it may well happen that whatever they may be teaching will not be very relevant to the listeners, that the listeners may not get a lot of understanding from that.